So, first of all, Mae Gordon, privileged to have you here as the 7th lecturer in the Myers Lecture Series here at Ohio State. We're excited about that, and it's just a privilege to have you with us today.
It's a privilege to be here with family.
Yeah. So, as I had the chance to kind of review a little bit about your life, a little bit about you, I was amazed at the amount of significant contributions you've made to vision care. And I think most of the folks in this room would know principal investigator for the CLEC study, which was the first NIH multi-center study in optometry.
We're very proud of that.
Yeah, well, and we should be.
And the home is here.
I know. Welcome. Principal investigator for the OAT study, which helped all the vision care providers to understand glaucoma more completely. Chair of advisory boards for the Baltimore and Beaver Dam eye studies, which are significant eye studies, of course. And then just became principal investigator for 2 follow-up studies to the OATS study. Yep. So that's very exciting. What amazed me, though, is as I looked at the things that you had lectured on and taught about and studied, I was amazed at the breadth, okay? Maybe you probably know all this from heart, but let me just share it with you. Intraocular pressure measurement, ocular hypertension treatment, glaucoma treatment, visual field measurement, corneal thickness, neurological disease and stroke, legally blind veterans, low vision, keratoconus, vision function, color vision and ocular disease, medication compliance, cerebral infarct, adenovirus, air ambulance service,
Oh, yes.
children's vision disorders, generic medication cost, electrodiagnostic testing, surgical anesthesia and lid ptosis, contact lenses for keratoconus, measuring the quality of life effects of visual field loss, economics of chronic disease, sickle cell anemia, and occupational therapy.
It's all true.
And I look at that breadth and it's like, wow. I mean, most of us end up in one discipline and do a great amount of study in one discipline, but you go across professions and disciplines, which is very exciting.
And the reason why is I can't say no.
Well, and we appreciate that. We appreciate that. You're one of the first that actually told vision care professionals that they need to pay attention to central corneal thickness.
Absolutely.
150 peer-reviewed publications, 200 published abstracts and papers. I did a count of the value of the studies that you've been principal investigator on, and you know that it comes to more than $20 million.
Yes, probably.
Yeah. And that's his principal investigator. That's not just, I was along for the ride investigator,
Yeah,
right?
that's
You know, so. I was also amazed that you've been willing to teach others how to do research and share that both in this country and internationally.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's exciting. And the most amazing thing, that was all done without a degree in vision science.
Yes, it's possible.
I looked, and it's true. So, I was excited about, that you've been recognized by the Association of International Glaucoma Societies for daring, breakthrough, creative, original research in glaucoma. The New York Academy of Medicine for most outstanding glaucoma research. The Optometric Glaucoma Society has recognized you. American Academy of Ophthalmology has recognized you. And the American Academy of Optometry will recognize you next month with the Koch medal. And I think that's just, it's all a variety of professions and professions. And I think it's just great. I think it's just great. So, well, so that's pretty impressive stuff. But we want to know more about what really makes you tick. Now, I could probably invite some of the folks in this room to tell me a little bit about what makes me tick. And I might get all sorts of answers, but I'd rather have you tell us a little bit about it.
I've had many identities, and coming here, it's like home. It really is. I have spent probably more than 30, no other institution have I spent more time here since 1993 or maybe even 89. And it's more than 30 days that I've slept on campus somewhere. And I just need to share with you something about my inner self.
Okay.
May I?
Please.
Well, when I open the website, I see Dr. Michael Drake as president of the university, and I collaborated with him as a PI on the ocular hypertension treatment study.
Very good.
And I click on Vision 2020, and I see Carla Zadnik. So can I show you my true inner identity? Are you ready?
Can we do that?
Well, that's why he can edit it. But walking.
I like it. I think it's good.
I can't always show you my true identity, so I'm going to cover
Well,
it
you
up.
can leave it open for the video. I think it's perfect.
No, we have to have some secrets.
That'll play well anytime you're here in Columbus.
Okay.
That's no problem at all. Well, tell us a little bit about your childhood first.
All right. First, I was born in an internment camp, because this is during World War II. And it took my parents 4 years after they closed the internment camp to leave, because there was no provision for relocating people from that period. And I went to a rural grade school and high school, and there were only 196 people in my graduating class. There were very few who went on to higher education. There were 3 of us who got college degrees. That's really a big contrast to where an urban school would be, we would call a union high school. And I was one of those who went to a local commuting university. And when I went to Portland State, I didn't know where it was. It was literally 15 miles from my home, but I had to use a map to get there, because I had so rarely gone into town, truly. And my first aspiration, believe it or not, was to join the Waxes or the Waves, because I would love to travel, and I had no money to travel. But I got involved in a sociology research project, and so by the time I was a senior in college, I did my first sort of research project, and I really loved it. It was about leadership structure in spontaneous groups. And what I learned from that was the art of coding and observation. I was the team research leader. As before computers, and I had paper spreadsheets. And what was really interesting about that was after the boys worked for about an hour and a half constructing a house made of various planks, and the observers circled the group of 4 boys. We recorded who said what to whom. At the end of the hour and a half, we would ask the boys, who had the best suggestions, who was the leader? And what we found was that the person who made the best suggestion was frequently not the person who was identified as the leader. There was this real disjunction. Why? Well, because when you're in a group, you often don't know what piece of information or insight is going to lead to the solution. And people's attribution of leadership is just not in sync with who actually gave that good information. And this is true in real life, folks. I've observed this in many committee meetings, so I have a very good ear for an idea or a suggestion that moves the group to a solution, and I remember who gave it, and then I look at who is attributed with the solution. They're very often not the same people. So that whole insight made me think, wow, there's incredible stuff out there that people don't see. So I chose a graduate school that would let me continue my sort of observation small group analysis. And I got a research assistantship and a fellowship and general medicine research methodology fellowship. And landed a research assistantship that allowed me to do my own research as a first-year graduate student. I was really lucky.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Interestingly, one of our distinguished alumni, a fellow by the name of Roy Abihara, was actually put in internment camps in California and taken out of his home in New Mexico. And, so we have some understanding about what that was about. So I noticed that your training was really in sociology and psychometrics, yet the bulk of your career has really been in vision sciences and biostatistics in the Department of Ophthalmology at a school of medicine. Now, how did that happen?
Wonderful story, because it's all about serendipity. I was always interested in health and medicine. I was particularly interested in stress and how stress was perceived, how it's measured, how it affected health. And even though I was in a program that was all about data analysis and data sets, that sort of content area interested me, so I took a prelim in that area, even though I'd only taken one course in that area. Thought that was really gutsy. So I kept that idea in mind. I landed a job teaching sociology and statistics at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. And for about 2-3 years, I was running around WashU track, you know, just jogging. And I would meet this guy, you know, hello. And this went on for like 3 years, hello, hello, hello. And finally, we decided to run together. He turned out to be Michael Cass, who you might know is the chair of the ocular hypertension treatment study. And at some point, they had this major grant declined by the National Eye Institute. And he asked me if I would be interested in helping them resurrect this grant application. And I thought, great idea, I'd love to be at the medical school, and I said yes, and I applied for the job. I got it, but I spelled ophthalmology wrong. Well, you know, I practiced a lot of things, but not that one. And we submitted a grant application for a glaucoma center, and it got turned down, but the site visit committee, which was like 10 people, they really gave us the full Monty here, had a paragraph on me and my contribution to the application. And so the department decided to hire me despite the fact that the grant had been turned down. And we turned around 3 grants out of that center grant and got all 3 funded. And I've been more or less funded ever since. So I'm really lucky, and this is through lean times as well as good times.
So maybe just being a runner leads to these kinds of things.
You know, I have to tell you that it helps. But in graduate school, you know, I did all these projects. I learned how to write an introduction, a hypothesis, a method section, and an analysis section, long before I was doing grants for NIH. And I tell the story of my first year in St. Louis. I was walking down the hall of a social work building, and I saw this brochure. It was, you know, pinned against the corkboard wall, and it said, Recreational Grants, National Science Foundation, blah, blah, blah. And I'd always known that to survive economically, you gotta be able to warp and meld your ideas to fit other people's funding venues, you know? We know this. I was inculcated early on. And so I thought, oh, I could warp my research to fit their protocol, right? Okay, I'll do that. So one afternoon, I wrote this grant. I mean, one afternoon. And I sent it in, and it says, oh, letters of reference are required. And then I got this extreme cold feet. I said, oh, I can't ask my mentors and my PhD thesis advisor to write a grant for NSF recreation research. They'll think I'm crazy. So I didn't get the letters of reference. And I dropped it. I said, forget it. I don't want to put any more time in this. I'm embarrassed I ever thought of this. Well, 2 months later, I get this call from the National Science Foundation. The committee really liked your grant. We've decided to fund it. And I thought, oh no, I didn't even get the letters of reference. And he said, well, they liked it anyway. I about died. So I got this first grant from NSF with no letters of reference, and that was my first real funded grant.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
So clearly with your research, with your background and everything, you could have researched any area of medicine or any area of the social sciences. Why the emphasis on glaucoma and keratoconus?
Well, first of all, they were willing to hire me. And the keratoconus is quite serendipitous. Another one of these things that happened. Let's see, I was invited by Izzy Goldberg to the first ever summer institute. Izzy Goldberg knew me from, you know, sort of review groups at the National Eye Institute. And this is the first summer camp at Clark Creek campus. And when we broke up into groups, they just basically said, take the group on the sofa next to the wall. There, over there. Okay. That happened to be the keratoconus group, and the rest is history.
So just deciding where you're going to sit.
I think it does matter. And so in 2 years ago, in the summer camp here at OSU, they were breaking up for groups similarly, and I turned to Carla because I had not been assigned a group, and I said, oh, where should I go? She says, oh, why don't you go to diseases? I went to diseases, and that's where we're doing the rapid study, reducing adenoviral patient-affected days, and we submitted a R34 planning grant within, what, 5 months of the camp, and got it funded in another year.
Very good. Very good.
And thank God Andy was there, boy. He is, I'll tell you, every person makes a difference, and he has really made an incredible difference.
Well, it's good to have the right team. It's got to be the right people.
But it was so fortuitous. It wasn't planned. It's total serendipity, don't you think?
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
It's good.
Humbling.
So I noticed that you moved to a Big Ten school for your master's and your PhD work. And then you did some postgrad work at the University of Michigan.
Oh,
which-
you picked that up,
Oh,
right?
yeah, well, I did that, I missed that stuff. I was a little surprised, and I didn't know what to do with that, but I guess we'll just kind of ignore that for the moment.
Oh, I had a great time.
Who were some of the early influencers in your life and some of the early influencers in your career?
Well, my PhD thesis advisor was a very successful female professor. And among the very first to mentor female grad students, and made a huge difference. I mean, she took us to meetings. She studied in a very unconventional area at the time. It's romantic love. Now, Erik Erikson was studying romantic love, and so were many other male psychologists. And however, at the time, and she was NIH funded, it was so different that she actually got the Golden Fleece Award from William Proxmire, who sort of picked foolish government projects to highlight and to condemn, really. And it's just romantic love is very important in most marriages, and yet he was mocking that. Anyway, she was my professor, and I was there when she won the Golden Fleece Award. But so that kind of broke the ice, I'm very serious. Carla and I are glass ceiling breakers.
I would say so.
Yes.
Yeah. Other people that were mentors or early influencers?
So, let's see. Well, of course, my time at Washington University has been incredibly seminal. And I was the first biostatistician hired by a department by Bernie Becker, who was an incredible visionary. And he just took the chance. Now, you don't pay statisticians very much, and they bring back a bundle, so why not take a chance? And it's been good for the department.
Any others?
I'm sure there were many others.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, my journey is populated by wonderful people, really.
Some here in this room, right?
Many here in this room.
There you go. So-
Many here in this room.
So you had a unique opportunity to observe a variety of health professions without having been a health professional necessarily, not trained as a health professional yourself. I think that outsider's view gives you a different insight into the professions than those of us who are within the professions.
I hope so.
What do you see as the strengths and weaknesses of optometry?
Ooh, good question. Well, first, I will address the question of what I bring in that's different. And it's my social science background. When I first entered medical research, I thought, oh my God, how can I compete? I wasn't trained at Johns Hopkins, University of Michigan, et cetera, Stanford, et cetera. Now, that's gonna be my Achilles heel in my career. And guess what? It hasn't been. And one of the reasons it hasn't been is because I really do bring a broader view to research. I'm interested in the content, not just the numbers. And also because I have a lot of experience in the writing of applications, I can put together a solid package that has logical integrity and that addresses the problem in a nuanced manner that biostatisticians generally can't do given their usual training with modeling and numbers and so forth. They're not as content oriented.
Interesting. So how do you see optometry strengths and weaknesses?
I suspect that it isn't an issue of weaknesses in optometry or ophthalmology, but rather when you get into a narrow, delimited area, all professions are circumscribed by their technical expertise. We often forget the context of vision, and vision is very, very socially context. Our perception, and I'll talk about that later, is influenced by the context of what we expect, what we fear. Compliance is a very major issue in all refractive treatments and in medicine in general. So we often ignore the larger context of care delivery. And I also think that we're a little slow in recognizing the changing demographics of the population and the demands. Like, for instance, about 15 years ago, there was a great emphasis on patient-centered research outcomes. And so we began to get quality of life surveys. You know, how do you like your function? Are you functioning adequately? Well, that totally changes the domain of what we consider important to look at. So my generation has a certain level of expectation of our performance. I think that the 30-somethings now, when they turn 50, going to be totally different. And the vision they experience, that we experience now, is not going to be as adequate. They're going to say, I want better vision, I want better health, I want better knees, I want better hips. And you're going to look at this data and think, well, what are we doing wrong? And the answer is nothing. It's that the patient expectations have changed. It's going to be a sea change on what people expect from the healthcare system. And I don't think we're ready.
Well, it's interesting you point that out, that, you know, sometimes as practitioners, we think, we forget how an infection affects somebody's just lifestyle for the few days that they have it, or you know, we think, well, they're seeing 20, 30, that's pretty good.
Yes,
and yet they may be really struggling to do their life activities, you know, and so
it depends on
sometimes
what
we
they
forget
are.
these kinds of things, yeah. So, well, good.
And you won't hear the 30-somethings when they're 50, though. They won't say, oh, I don't see very well because of my age. They won't accept that.
No. Well, it's even less today. I mean,
Yeah, you see it.
Yeah. What guidance would you give to the profession of optometry for the remainder of the 21st century? Where should we be emphasizing or thinking about?
Ooh, tough question. That's a tough question. One of the reasons I'm very excited about the RAPID study, which is the use of betadine, or testing the efficacy and safety of betadine for antiviral conjunctivitis, is the fact that I see optometrists as being the frontline eye caregivers. And this is one of the first, quote, medical studies in optometry, yes. And I think it's a breakthrough study. I think it's a threshold study. And although very few people will think about it that way, I think it's going to be the crack that opens up a different kind of future.
That's a good thing, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
So, good. So what attributes that you have, or what's, you talked a little bit about circumstances and some serendipity, have allowed you to make such significant contributions? I guess I'd rather know about attributes and things, you know, what in your makeup have allowed you to do some of these things and make really significant contributions.
I think the audience can probably answer that. I'm curious. I'm persistent. I'll take no for an answer, but I'll find a way to get around it.
Seems others here have observed that. So.
Well, you know, I have to tell you, there's an analogy to football that I really like. I saw Marshall Falk. He's a running back for for several teams, but for the Rams in St. Louis. And I just, you know, I looked at his knees and how he goes like this, and I thought, man, that is just so cool. This guy can just move like blah, 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 blah. And I thought, that's what I need to do in life, is that I need to learn to bob and weave and get to my goal. And I have an advantage over Marshall Falk. You know why? I can move the goalpost.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, you know, he had to just go one way, but me, I can move the goalpost. I can change my goals, my intermediate goals, my ultimate goals, and that is a really important lesson to learn in life.
Well, there's a lot of freedom there, isn't there?
Navigate,
Yeah.
but know your goals.
I like that. Other attributes?
I don't think so.
Okay. Others may have others that they want to share, but we'll work with that. So, obviously, you're still doing research, still in your career. At this point, what would you point to as what you think will be the most lasting contribution or most significant contribution to date? And we may still have something yet to come.
Oh, yeah.
As of now.
Let's hope so. So, something I've done that is clearly a lasting contribution is that we have established that corneal thickness is a risk factor for glaucoma. We discovered this. It had been shown by association, but not only did we quantitate its predictive value, but we replicated and validated it in an independent European study of nearly 1,000 people. Now, very few investigators are ballsy enough to think to do this, but those of us who deal in statistics know that the risks of overfitting on a data set, that you could find something that could not be replicated elsewhere. So the best thing we needed to do was to find something totally different to replicate it. Now, I gotta tell you, I was just scared for 2 years to find out that it couldn't be replicated. You know, sometimes it's better not to ask, but we thought, this is important, let's do it. We have to do it. So, and I have to tell you, it's really hard to get somebody else, especially Europeans, to share their data. Well, we could share our data easily, but that's not the ethic out there. But we said, we'll give you everything we have, you give us everything we have. And I could not believe when the analyses started to be done, nothing differed by more than 0.1 or 0.1. It was so close, you would have thought that you'd have to cheat to get it that close. I'm serious. I could not believe the biological stability of the influence of corneal thickness in ocular pressure age. I couldn't believe it. So I felt vindicated. I mean, it takes that. You just have to have doubts about your own data findings. And so the measurement of corneal thickness has now entered the standard parlance of good practice, not only here in the United States, and it is reimbursed as the CPT-1 code, but many countries have adopted this as well. So that's already a lasting influence. Believe me, if we can show that betadine has safety and efficacy for treatment of adenoviral conjunctivitis, and it could have efficacy with regard to reduction of the viral load, reduction in the period of discomfort, reduced missed days of work. There are many ways in which it can be efficacious. We will have affected, had large economic impact here in the U.S., but even larger in developing countries. And that would be sensational. That would be totally sensational. We don't know if we can do this.
Don't know. That's why we go and do the research, right?
Right, absolutely.
And I think those are significant things. I mean, you know, in the treatment of glaucoma, often we would look at medications as being landmark elements. You know, the development of the prostaglandins 20 years
Absolutely.
ago, beta blockers 15, 20 years before that. But to take a risk factor and say, folks, we really should have been looking at this all along.
I know. It's amazing.
Is a significant contribution.
Well, if you ask Jamie Brandt, who was the pusher for this, he would tell you that it took him 3 years to get the oath leadership to take this measurement.
Really?
Yes, because people said, why are you bothering? Its influences on interocular pressure, dummy. Why are you bothering to do this? No one expected that it had an influence over and above interocular pressure, least of all us.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's important to bark up trees that you think may be not fruitful.
Well, and as you said before, sometimes listening to what others have to contribute within the group can be of value, right?
Right, well, see, now, so the logic here was, oh, it's easy to do pachymetry, right? So the downside of making this useless measurement was very low. I'm serious, this is the way we thought about this. This is our decision tree. Low cost, they were willing to donate the instruments to all their clinics, okay? And so he said, why not? So when we discovered this relationship, like, hey, Gordon, what's going on? I said, I can't get rid of it. It keeps coming up. I have cross-examined this with regard to every other variable I can possibly think of, and I'm thinking like 50 variables. It doesn't seem to be related. It seems to be independent. Oh my gosh, what do we do?
You haven't discovered.
Well, no, when you discover something and you're first, it's a very risky, it's a
Oh, sure.
very exposed position. So I thought, well, how do I report this thorn in the side? Well, I went to the sort of fetal position. Okay, I'm serious. Don't do fancy analyses. I'm not going to do any kind of waving of the hand. I'm just going to let the data speak for itself. So what I did was to produce 2 graphics. And it just had interocular pressure, corneal thickness. And it showed at each level of interocular pressure, corneal thickness made a difference. It was independent. And then when people would say, well, what about the damaged disc? So I made another simple chart. And this is just frequency tables. This is nothing but frequency tables. You learn this as an 8th grader using Excel spreadsheet, right? And I did cut disc ratio and corneal thickness, and it was linear at every level of cut disc ratio. So, end of story, but that's why we had to do European replication. You could not go to press, but that was very scary to publish that. And I know you probably didn't think it could possibly be scary, but we were sweating bullets. We delayed publication of the paper a full month because we didn't understand what was going on and did not want to report something that was really due to another cause.
You don't want to be mistaken, right? At all.
Well, I put ourselves in a position that we could be mistaken and it wouldn't be embarrassing. Really. I mean, you know, let the data speak for itself. Oh, I don't know why. No, it could be myopia, it could be something else that we didn't measure, but this is what the data show us. And so it's like, let the data speak for
Right.
itself.
So what's the research question that you would really like to answer before your research career comes to a close?
Ooh. Well, there's a few things on deck, okay? And the one thing that I think would be great contribution would be for, you know, glaucoma is a progressive disease causing significant disability in some patients. we have not been able to identify patients who will encounter significant disability. And the only way we currently identify rapidly progressing patients is by observing them for about 2 years as they rapidly progress. And that is not adequate. We think that if we looked at retinal blood flow, that we may have an important biomarker for rapid progressors. We don't know this, but we think that may be true. And if it is true, that would be a boon, because then we wouldn't have to undergo 8 visual fields over 2 years or 3 years. And it would also address the question of an increasingly frail senior citizen population who are unable to do reliable visual fields. It would be cheap, it would be reproducible, it would be non-invasive, and it would be non-psychophysical. These are very good test characteristics for a diagnostic test. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed.
And you expect the results will be published next
No,
month?
my God, we don't even have this funded. Oh, my God.
No, that would be in the world of glaucoma treatment, that's life-changing.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it
I
really
was
is.
I just had a conversation yesterday with NEI, and they said, well, we're looking for, would this be game-changing? And I thought, I really think this could be game-changing. This is a game-changer.
No, without a doubt. Because you're exactly right, we're looking for damage. I mean, that's how we're diagnosing it, is on the basis of damage, whether, anatomical damage through, tomography or through subjective damage of the visual loss and visual field. Well, yeah, it'd be nice to know before that.
Yes, because it would change your management
Absolutely.
early, before it's too late.
And save a whole lot of people's vision.
Absolutely.
Which
So
would
that
be a
would be
good thing.
very, very nice.
That would be a good thing. So any life lessons that you'd like to share with our guests about anything? You talked a little bit about your attributes and getting so much significant contributions done, but are there other life lessons that you've learned that you would say, you know what, if I knew this earlier in life, it would have been helpful?
Well, I'm far more successful than I ever expected to be, so I used to worry about being successful, being able to earn a living. It basically took care of itself, and I could stop worrying about that. And I think what distinguishes me from a lot of biostatisticians is that I truly, honestly love discovery. And it's like an opiate, but it is really fun. It'll make me work very hard. And I'm a very content-driven person. The models, anybody can do a model pretty much. I mean, but I drive the content as well.
If you could redo something in your life, what would it be? And we won't talk about that trip to the University of Michigan. We won't talk about that.
Oh, that was so much fun. I would like to go back to school. And I just for over lunch conversation, I feel like I should be asking for my money back for my college tuition, because so much of what I was taught was wrong. Don't you think they owe me a rebate?
If you could make it happen, you go for it.
Anyway, I would love to go back to school as an undergraduate, live in a dormitory. I mean, this is really regression, isn't it?
It's a year or two.
And take a basic course in paleontology, astronomy, molecular biology, you name it. This would be very good to get refreshed on those areas.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, agreed.
So just redo school again.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be entirely new. And I should have it for free because they owe me that.
I think there's an argument there. All right, 2 questions left. What do you wish you had done less of in your life?
Less of in my life. I would say I would wish that I worked less, but I really enjoy it a lot. So maybe that is not the right answer for
Okay,
me.
so what's the right answer?
It's not eating less, not running less. You know, I'm not a person who's repentant.
You don't have to be repentant necessarily. But as you look at your career, is there something you say, well, gee whiz, I really didn't need to spend a lot of time on that activity, whatever it was, and I would have been just fine?
Well, you know, since so much of my life is quite serendipitous, I haven't really found anything that drops out like, what a waste, you know, forget that. I'm able to recover a lot of the irrelevant things that I learned.
That's a good thing.
And that, it shows in my resume, doesn't it?
I'm not here to judge, man.
Oh,
I think it's pretty impressive,
You
actually.
can interest me in any number of things, and that's probably a strength and a weakness in me.
It would be in anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
because sometimes you'd say, well, gee whiz, what a breadth of stuff, and then others would say, well, she can't keep her attention on anything. I don't know that because I haven't worked with you, but, you know, there's some that would say, what's going on with that?
Oh, my husband does.
So tell us about him for just a minute.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's really good that he is a card-carrying college professor philosopher.
Okay.
Okay? So we don't overlap much in our interests. And that's really a great relief. So I don't have to talk about work because he doesn't understand it. And I don't talk to him about his work because I really don't understand it. But he's been a very successful philosopher. You know, he has as many citations as I do, so we're equal.
Very good.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what do you wish you had done more of in your life?
If I had time, I would play more. And I told you, I said, tonight at 10:30, I'm either going to be in bed or out in a disco club.
I'm betting on the disco club.
It's true. Everybody who knows me knows I love to dance. In fact, at the American Glaucoma Society, they have a banquet followed by disco dancing. And they embarrassed me 2 years in a row by awarding me the next morning at the 8 o'clock session the Dance Machine of the Year award.
I saw that on your CD. I saw that. I couldn't figure it out, so I didn't mention it. But,
Oh, well, I did not do that at Michigan.
I think a lot of times we get focused on work, whether it's research work, practice work, family, whatever, and we do forget to play. And sometimes it's good to just get in the sandbox and do something.
Yeah. Well, my son says that I play hard and I work hard. And I do play hard, but not hardball.
There you go.
So among my hobbies right now, karate, like I'm a grand champion, believe it or not.
I would believe that.
I do whitewater kayaking. I bought class 3 rapids. I've done whitewater kayaking, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Chile, and Patagonia. What else do I do? I bicycle for fun. And I cook. Cooking is like meditation for me, clearly. I love to do that. And I particularly like cutting things. So.
All right. I think with that, with your permission, we'd like to open it up to questions from the group. Is that okay?
That would be wonderful.
Awesome. So questions that anybody has that might help resonate a story that you may have, or something you're just curious about, or what you might want to know from Mae.
Give them some time.
Well,
So
they've
percolate.
had weeks to think
Oh,
about
I
this.
see,
It's
okay.
not like it's news or anything.
Mae, so it's pretty amazing just how you've had these big trials that have been centered in optometry, centered in ophthalmology, centered in these different professions. So Dr. Myers kind of touched on this, but when you're working with these different professions, other than the obvious answer that working with optometrists is the most fun, but what are the
It is
differences?
true.
Is it really, you go in with it, is it all the same, or do you have to go in differently to work with these different departments?
That's really interesting. So with the ophthalmologist, I have to be prepared for more arrogance. Serious. Maybe a little more cross-examination. which I don't mind actually, because I think that shots across the bow make you more cautious and force you to rethink things, and you should always be rethinking everything. I mean, I think one of the big intellectual traps is being comfortable in what you think you know. So did I answer your
Yeah.
question? Yeah.
Well, what's it like then for offices of ophthalmology? What about with optometry? So do you go in different mindset?
It's interesting, my optometry collaborators are generally younger than my ophthalmologist colleagues. And I'm gonna guess that they're more fun. Like, I can hardly ever get an ophthalmologist to go dancing with me. It's true. So I use that as a barometer.
Others?
So, May I worked with you on the CLEC study.
They know so much about me.
During all the years of the CLEC study, what was the funniest thing that you recall ever happening at one of the full investigator meetings or CLEC parties?
All right, we have a
Sounds like a
lot of
setup
people
here.
who can help answer this. The funniest thing that ever happened at a CLEC meeting.
That's something that's particular.
We might have to say that one.
I have to think.
So Mae, do you remember when you took a picture of Tim Eppington running out of the women's, what's it called? The
Academy
women's
Club at
faculty
Berkeley.
club at Berkeley, and the look on his face? I don't know if you remember that picture.
I don't remember that. That'd be great if we could recover that.
So
Oh, it's you guys in the.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Speedos.
Speedos.
Oh, God, the
Speedos.
Speedos. Oh, boy, we gotta be
Poke my
careful.
eyes
Never-
There was the zebra,
Yes, yes,
Joe and the zebra,
yeah.
yes.
Let's back up to the Speedo part.
No.
It sounds like there's a story there. I mean,
Well, there's some anatomy that we probably shouldn't discuss.
well, we kind of got the idea what that
Was
would
it
be.
was it because there was an anniversary? Like we were celebrating, it was pretty long, so it wasn't like we were celebrating getting the money because they were a little older, as I recall.
It was the same trip where you and Don drove down from the World Cornea Congress in
With you?
Orlando. No,
With
no,
you?
you and Don drove down in the convertible and you got sunburned really bad.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't
you
remember
were
why,
with us.
I don't remember why Don was going after
It's
the
it's
Speedo.
good to have
I
the
remember what you
memories
said.
get foggy.
Yeah, well,
The size of
Very
it. I don't
Sometimes that makes the story better.
Do you need a reason for Speedos?
No, they
Well,
were,
it's the
you know, they
beach. I
were,
mean,
they
you're
were
at the
purple,
beach.
they were purple and teal, because
That's
those were the
right, I
flag
remember the
colors.
teal.
No, we got teal. We got teal.
We had purple
Speedos.
ones too. Remember, you and Bernie each had one of a
I
different
don't
color.
remember the teal.
Oh, no, that's because that was yours. His was purple.
I think there was alcohol
That's why.
involved.
No, there was no alcohol.
Not yet.
We had a great time.
I'm thinking there, it was great, yes, yes, yes. So, was there something in particular you were looking for?
No,
or-
no. I remember Joe getting an unusual haircut at the.
Oh, yes.
Sea
Oh,
Park.
yes,
I
yeah,
thought that was
yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
that was good.
Yeah.
That's special.
But this study, we developed two brand new measurement systems.
Yeah.
So we developed the concept of measuring the bulk of the central cornea using fluorescein, and we quantitated it and documented. We could get good integrated reliability, and we did the scar documentation, and those are two new outcomes, because what a lot of people don't appreciate is if you're going to test new hypotheses that are sort of breaking edge, you have to develop new breaking edge outcome measures. And we were asking questions in areas that had not been studied before. There was no measurement device, and we knew, being the first study out of the box, that if there's anything that an ophthalmologist or anybody was going to criticize, it's going to be your measures. And we wanted the fight to be about the disease and its progression, not its measures. So we did a series of pilot studies to anchor the measures, demonstrate that they were both valid, reproducible, and reliable. I'm serious. This took us about 2 years. And And we did the toughest criteria for validity is between the clinician and the photo document. That's the toughest, most acid criteria, and we did it. We got very high kappas in the sort of 80s, and so that it silenced everybody. You could not challenge this system of outcome measures, so that by the time we were ready to publish the relationship between scarring and corneal contact lens fit, that it was about the relationship and not about the measures. And I love that. That was one of those silent victories that, you know, when you look back, no issues about the measurements. Nailed it.
That's good. That's good.
Jeff, this isn't a question for Mae, but it's a comment sort of about Mae, and that is the two diseases that she worked on are optometric diseases that are probably, that take the, by far, the largest part of the curriculum. Glaucoma is a class in and of itself. Keratoconus requires 2 or 3 class periods to learn about it, and there's no other disease that meets either one of those criteria. And it's probably a result of what Mae's done for the optometric profession. And so we need her to study more diseases, I guess. So we know more and make it a big part of the curriculum.
Interesting, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions for Mae? Fantastic.
I want to thank you. This is a great
My
idea.
privilege, my privilege.
And I just love the idea of bringing visiting professors with this informal setting where you probably didn't, well, many of you have known me very well for a long time, but a different dimension
Sure,
altogether,
absolutely.
that no one would have asked me these questions except you.
That's true. That's true. So, well, we thank you for being here and being the Myers Lecturer for 2015. We look forward to the lecture later this afternoon. And congratulations on a wonderful career and
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my privilege.